So I apparently was very sick. They said if I had really delayed much longer, it would not have been good at all.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City, where we explore the history and people of Troy, New York, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, John Salka. In this episode, we're looking back at a moment when bipartisanship triumphed over cynicism and a council member overcame serious illness to make a pivotal vote. Last month, Troy's City Council unanimously authorized a new labor contract with the Troy Uniformed Firefighters Association, also known as the UFA. The 4-year agreement outlines pay increases and other changes for the approximately 133 firefighters that serve the city of Troy.
The fact that we are all in agreement in co-sponsoring should be a statement to you how well we think of you, how much we respect you, and we want to support you, and I'm glad that we're able to agree on this. If no one else wants to comment, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 102 is adopted unanimously.
By the time these agreements reach the council for approval, the outcome is usually a foregone conclusion. But back in 2016, the outcome of an earlier proposed contract with the UFA was very much in question, right up until the last moment, depending on who you ask.
If I had not shown up, it would have been 4-4 and defeated.
That's the voice of Lynn Kopka, former District 4 council member.
I served 6 years. 3 terms of 2 years each. I started out as president of the council, running at large. The next year I ran at large, came in not high enough to be president. And then the 3rd term, I switched to just my district.
In November of 2016, the tentative contract agreement negotiated by then Troy Mayor Patrick Madden and the union's leadership, including then UFA President Frank Rosano, was before the City Council for consideration. Overwhelmingly approved by the UFA membership, the contract included salary increases for Troy's firefighters, but also 4 zeros, or 4 years of no retroactive pay raises, creating significant savings for taxpayers in the immediate and long term.
I don't know that anybody has ever gotten 4 zeros in a contract negotiation before. I don't know that anybody's ever offered it before.
The administration and firefighters argued it was a good deal for the city and taxpayers. I would know because, well, I was there. However, not everyone else agreed with us.
It is sure to be a contentious budget season in Troy. Mayor Patrick Madden there proposing a 28% property tax hike. Now the first sign of opposition on the city council beginning to roll in. It's over the city's fire service. Jeff Reddick looking into this debate for us. Jeff, what does this all mean for...
4 of the council's Republicans, including then Council President Carmela Mantello and council members Jim Gully, Kim Ash McPherson, and Mark McGrath, fiercely opposed the contract, arguing the combined 28% tax increase and new contract with the firefighters was just too much.
It's insulting, really, that the mayor has put forth a 28% tax increase, and then at the same time is going to add on to that about $325,000 a year for raises.
The firefighters union understandably disagreed.
In a statement, the firefighters union responded, "This is not bad timing. For Mark McGrath to insinuate that this is something we timed is just wrong. This could not be a more opportune time with the city's budget process underway."
The city's financial problems weren't breaking news. For the prior 2 decades, Troy's annual budget included millions of dollars in debt payments resulting from financial mismanagement and overspending during the 1980s and early 1990s. This included a controversial leaseback agreement for the former City Hall building in Monument Square, along with construction of the Knickerbocker Ice Arena, South Troy Community Center, and Central Fire Station, all which contributed to spiraling debt during an economic downturn and shrinking revenues. Former Troy Mayor Mark Pattison, who was elected in 1995 to confront Troy's financial crisis, explained to us during an earlier interview how these decisions fueled the city's fiscal woes.
So they sold City Hall and our parks and our parking garages essentially to ourselves, to an LDC. That generated $35 million of income, which they used to build the Central Fire Station, the South Troy Community Center. But they used the money to build those buildings, and then they also used the money to sort of hide the deficit that they were running. It's not, again, very tough situation. Revenues were going down, expenditures were going up, and that's a prescription for disaster.
In 2016, Troy's Republicans held a numerical supermajority on the city council, commanding 6 of 9 seats. I'll admit this created a real headache for the mayor and our team, with Mantello essentially running what was a shadow campaign for the 2019 mayor's race from the moment she assumed office in January of 2016. But during those first 8 months, Mantello's heavy-handed approach to leading the council, including directing Republican council members not to attend public budget workshops organized by the mayor, had fractured the 6-member caucus. By the time the UFA contract vote had arrived, 2 Republicans, Dean Bodner of District 3 and John Donahue of District 6, had signaled their support for the firefighters' contract and planned to vote yes, along with the council's 3 Democrats, Kopka, Aaron Sullivan-Tita, and Bob Doherty. May he rest in peace. So, despite the opposition from some council members, the contract was set to pass. But there was a wrinkle. Kopka was sick. Very sick.
I had contracted anaplasmosis from a tick bite and was hospitalized right around Halloween.
The illness was something that Kopka initially didn't take seriously.
I thought I was fine until I went to the emergency room because I really wasn't fine. But they hospitalized me immediately. So I apparently was very sick. They said if I had really delayed much longer, it would not have been good at all. It just sounds so dramatic because it's like, it's just a tick bite. Come on, get over it. But apparently it is pretty serious. And I did not realize that, nor did I know I had even gotten bitten by a tick.
The date of the contract vote was rapidly approaching, and Kopka was insistent to her doctors about making it to City Hall.
Well, I told them initially, I said, I have to leave here by Thursday. I have to go to this vote. I have to be better.
But her recovery from the anaplasmosis was slow going, and the medical team was adamant she take time to recover.
And they said, we understand that, but some count, I don't know if it was a white blood count, something had to hit a certain level. And it was pretty bad at the time I was admitted. And it's not like you can do something to increase it other than the effect of the meds to get you there.
But Kopka wasn't giving up yet.
I also had inquired about, what if I just leave, which of course I could do, but they said you might not be able to come back easily. So I nixed that plan.
After briefly considering a secret departure,
well, maybe I could scoot back in, and they would never know that I was missing.
Kopka finally relented to her doctor's concerns.
Nixed that plan and just thought, let's just get better and get out of here.
Eventually, Kopka dialed someone whose name is very familiar to many Trojans, Carole Weaver.
I had heard that she was bit by a tick. I didn't know how serious it was.
After Kopka's call for help, Weaver, then the chair of the City of Troy's Democratic Committee, jumped into action.
She reached out to me that it was very important for her to get there to vote, but she had no way to get there. And so I made arrangements to get a wheelchair and picked her up at her house and wheeled her into City Hall so that she could make the vote count and pull this contract over the finish line.
I did go home, shower, pull myself together, and I think I was using the stairs by the crawl up the stair approach and slide down on your rear end approach. And then Carole was there with a wheelchair.
While Weaver and Kopka coordinated on transportation plans, the council gavelled in for the first meeting of the night, the Finance Committee, of which Kopka was a no-show.
She didn't make the finance meeting, and rumors fly.
And in Kopka's opinion, her initial absence was received gleefully by the Republican opponents of the contract.
Because I had not shown up for the finance meeting right beforehand, they assumed that I wasn't coming. So when I was wheeled in, it was like, oh, she's here. So although it wasn't said out loud, but you could read it on their faces.
Let's put it this way. We were the center of attention totally. Everybody turned around and jaws dropping as I wheeled her up to her seat.
It was a little dramatic. Everybody was thinking, she's not here. Yay. They didn't really want me to be there because they would have had the vote that they wanted.
And with Kopka's arrival, passage of the contract was assured.
And then Dean and John voted with her, with the Democrats, and it was a win-win. It really felt good because she was so dedicated to getting her vote counted, and I'm glad that it worked out for the contract.
We had planned to use audio from this and other council meetings to more fully tell the story of Kopka's dramatic entrance to push the firefighters contract over the finish line. But the Mantello administration has decided that these previously publicly available records are only accessible if you pay several $100s to obtain digital copies. We'll be diving into what's behind the missing audio and the bunker mentality of the Mantello administration on a future episode, so stay tuned for that. Trust me, it's going to be a good one. For now, in lieu of that audio, we'll be relying on detailed coverage of the debate and vote by Mark Robarge of the Troy Record. According to Robarge's reporting, in explaining his vote to support the contract, Councilmember Bob Doherty said, quote, "They're taking 0 for 4 years as an increase, and the wise thing financially is to settle with this union. This is a smart contract by a group of decent people through a well-negotiated effort, and if there's any politicking to be had, it's not in support of this contract. It's in grandiose opposition to frightened taxpayers on top of our real problem." Unquote. In the same article, Councilmember Mark McGrath appeared to compare the UFA to armed robbers, saying, quote, "If you want to point a gun at me and say, 'Give us our money,' I'm going to say, 'Not today. If you want to take me to court, take me to court,'" unquote. The then council president, Carmela Mantello, said, quote, "I cannot in good conscience say to the people of Troy, you're going to take the brunt of this. At some point, you can't get blood from a stone, and that's where we are today. At some point, we have to say, enough is enough," unquote. The final vote was 5-4, a hard-fought victory for the Madden administration and a reminder that bipartisanship could indeed overcome the hard Scrabble politics of Troy. Carole Weaver had this to say about Bodner and Donahue crossing the aisle to support the contract.
In this day and age, bipartisan is huge. We don't get it, but it's huge. And them siding with Kopka and the Democrats sent a strong message, I think.
Looking back on the vote and that era in Troy politics, Kopka was effusive in her praise of her former Republican colleagues who joined her to approve the firefighter contract.
I have the highest regard for both Dean and John because they really did their work. They tried very hard to understand, to look at the fiscal consequences, the policy. So they did apparently some type of research and came to the same conclusion that a majority of us did, which is that this is a good contract. Let's just pass it, move on, and keep going forward.
And with the vote over, Kopka departed City Hall with the assistance of Weaver.
As soon as the vote was over, I wheeled her right out of there and took her back home.
Just as we were wrapping up our interview with Lynn Kopka for this episode, she had one final request.
Can I put in a plug for a new business?
Sure.
All right. My neighbors, Alex and Michelle, who live on Adams Street, just opened the Pizzeria Mari at 625 River Street. The pizza is fabulous. They're Troy residents. They're sourcing locally. They got Collar City mushrooms. They're using area farms for fresh produce. And I just want them to succeed. They're great.
Shop small, shop local, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Pretty key.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help us reach new listeners. Sign up for email updates at troystorypod.com to get the latest episodes delivered direct to your inbox. No spam, ever. We promise. Join us next time for a very special interview with New York Times best-selling author of Grace, President Obama and the 10 Days in the Battle for America, and former chief White House speechwriter for President Barack Obama, Cody Keenan.
You intentionally pick a great location like Hudson Valley Community College. You intentionally decide to roll out a certain policy, you put it into kind of part of a longer story, and then all anybody wants to talk about is Afghanistan or local politics.
As always, until next time, love yourself, love one another, and may Pod save Troy. Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City, is hosted, written, edited, and produced by me, John Salka. Our theme music is by Stephen J. Goldman at Four Legs Records. Like what you heard? Please give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City. This is incredibly helpful for getting others to find our show. Want to know more? Visit TroyStoryPod.com to see upcoming episodes, guests, and bonus content. Thanks for listening. The views or opinions expressed by guests are their own and not of the host or Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City.